know where Christine is?
You know what Christine is?
Yes.
Oh, you guys found her?
Yes.
What about the baby?
Christine's dead.
It was just after 1 in the afternoon when police arrived at a house in Ansonia. There were no footprints in the snow, no signs of movement inside. The back window was slightly open. Officers forced the door and entered the home where 43-year-old Christine Holley lived with her 1-year-old daughter. Silence. The kitchen looked unnaturally clean. The baby's crib was empty. The house was cold. At first, it seemed like no one was inside, but when one of the officers opened the bathroom door, he immediately shouted. Christine's body was lying in the bathtub, brutally beaten, blood on her hands, a scene so disturbing that even experienced investigators had to look away. And in that moment, something else became clear. Her daughter was nowhere to be found. Vanessa was missing. In the following days, police discovered blood-stained clothing and items discarded in a donation bin. Surveillance cameras captured Christine's car leaving the house on the morning after her death. Behind the wheel was her boyfriend, Jose Morales. He said he knew nothing, claimed he hadn't even been in the house, and then suddenly he changed his story. That was the moment detectives realized something didn't add up. Because if he was lying about that, then what really happened that night? Hey guys, let me grab you for just a second. I'm really curious where my audience is watching from, so I'd love for you to drop a comment and tell me what city you're in and what time it is for you right now. Thanks for taking a moment. Go ahead and share that in the comments. And now, let's keep going. This is the case of Christine Holley. It was just after 1 in the afternoon on Monday, December 2nd, 2019, when officers arrived at the Holley home in Ansonia, Connecticut. They had been called for a welfare check because no one had heard from Christine in quite some time, and as hours turned into days, that silence started to seriously worry the people who knew her. As you can see in this body camera footage, it was bitterly cold outside, with snow already settling, covering the ground and rooftops in a soft white layer. One detail immediately caught the officers' attention. There were no footprints leading up to the front door. At first, they knocked on the door, then on the windows, but there was no response, no sound, no movement inside. What made it even more concerning was that they noticed the back window was slightly open, a troubling sign, especially considering that Christine lived there with her 1-year-old daughter, Vanessa. An open window in those temperatures was a very bad sign. Fearing the worst, officers made the decision to force their way inside, damaging the doorframe and the door itself. It wasn't an easy call, but desperate situations call for desperate measures. As they stepped into the house, they were met with an eerie silence. The air felt still, heavy with tension. The kitchen looked spotless, almost too clean for a home with a small child. Nearby, officers noticed the baby's crib was empty, which meant the child was not in the house. The main bedroom, partially sectioned off by a wardrobe, was cold as well, and at that point officers assumed no one was home. But when one of them approached the bathroom, he suddenly screamed in shock. Near the door there was a candle, barely flickering, as if it had been burning for hours. And what the officers saw next would shock even the most experienced investigators.
Oh shit. What? Oh fuck, dude. What? Holy shit. Get the DB here. Holy fuck. Okay. Find it. Back out. No, clear the room. Clear the house. I'm gonna need you here.
Christine Holley's body was lying in the bathtub. It looked like she had been beaten so brutally that part of her brain was found next to her body, and her hands were covered in dried blood. The scene was unbelievably horrific. It was clear she had been beaten to death with extreme violence. But the most terrifying part of it all was that Vanessa was still missing. What happened next sent a wave of fear and grief across Connecticut. A mother had been found murdered in her own home, and her daughter was officially missing. The community was deeply shaken, and almost everyone tried to help, not only to find Vanessa, but to piece together what had happened. But in the beginning, there was only one thing they could do: mourn the loss. Candlelight vigils were held, and posters with Vanessa's small face were placed on phone poles and in shop windows. Police worked around the clock. Volunteers searched nearby woods and bodies of water in a desperate effort, but no one was able to find the 14-month-old girl.
We've also learned that the woman found dead in the home Vanessa should have been with was her mother.
Yeah, Fox 61's Gabby Molina joins us now live from Ansonia with the latest. I guess you've got a family member with you, Gabby.
Tim, Margot, yes, right now what's happening right now in Ansonia is family members and friends and members of the community are handing out these flyers with Vanessa's picture on them, 4 pictures of Vanessa, all trying to find her, trying to spread the word here. We have not seen these pictures yet, so take a good look. There are some really, really clear photos of her face. She has brown hair and brown eyes, and that's right, family members have met here in Ansonia to spread the word about this, and I'm joined right now by Vanessa's cousin, Joshua. Joshua, tell us a little bit about what has been going through the family's mind these past few days.
It's very hard on my grandparents, and I could only imagine the other side of the family. We just want her home at any means necessary. We just want her home safe, healthy. I mean, Christmas is coming. Like, you know, she got to have her second Christmas, you know what I mean? And it's cold out here. And it's so much things going on in the world, and we would never think it would happen to your own.
Thank you so much, Joshua. And he is joined here by a couple of family members as well. I want to give you a look. They are standing at the edge of the street. Any car that stops by, they're walking over and handing flyers. They brought their own flyers. If we take a look over here, people are handing out flyers to just any car that comes by, hoping to spread the word to bring Vanessa home safely.
Despite all the community's efforts, there was still no trace of Vanessa. But eventually, investigators got a break, not in the search for the child, but in the case of her mother's murder. On a corner of a nearby street, a surveillance camera captured a car driving through the area around the time of Christine's death. The footage didn't clearly show who was inside, but it was enough to take a closer look and suggest this wasn't just a random drive-by. Police needed time to dig deeper, and in the days that followed, they uncovered what turned into a trove of evidence. Even more concerning was the fact that Christine's boyfriend, who was also Vanessa's father, was not only alive and unharmed, but was already staying at his parents' house nearby. Naturally, that immediately put him in the spotlight, and maybe for good reason. So let's take a closer look at the complicated lives of Christine and Jose. Before the tragedy, Christine Halle lived a life full of love, warmth, and kindness. At 43 years old, she was a beloved daughter, sister, and friend, but most importantly, she was a devoted mother to her only child, Vanessa Morales. To everyone who knew her, it was obvious. Christine and Vanessa were inseparable. For Christine, motherhood wasn't just a responsibility. She never saw it that way. Vanessa was her entire world. Growing up nearby in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Christine was the oldest of 5 children, which naturally helped shape her into a caring and attentive person from an early age. Her heart was as big as her smile, and she was always there for her younger siblings. Given her character and life path, it's no surprise she became the first in her family to earn a college degree, a bachelor's in psychology. It's worth noting that Christine wasn't chasing glamour or status. Instead, she dedicated her career to something she truly believed in, working with children. She worked as a daycare teacher and especially loved caring for infants. Whether at work, at home, or in her community, Christine was the kind of person who would do anything for anyone. She was a devoted member of St. Andrew's Church in Bridgeport, an active participant in Columbus, and a true pillar of her family. Her days were often filled with simple joys, helping her nephew with homework, putting together puzzles with her niece, spending time with her brothers, parents, and extended family, and at heart, you could say she was a true homebody. Now, let's talk about the man who unfortunately played a major role in her life. It was through her community that Christine met a man named Jose Morales. Over time, they grew closer and eventually started a relationship. And within just a few months, Christine found out she was pregnant with his child. At first, the relationship seemed fairly stable. They weren't married, but they shared responsibility for raising Vanessa. Friends remember Christine being incredibly happy to become a mother, and despite the challenges in the relationship, as often happens, she was deeply committed to giving her daughter a safe and loving home. Looking at Jose before his life became intertwined with Christine's, he seemed to live a fairly low-profile life. He moved from Puerto Rico to the United States in 1989 and grew up in New Haven, Connecticut. He was born on November 12, 1976, and from what's known, his early years were pretty ordinary, just like his education and career. Unlike Christine, Jose had a more complicated personality. He lived a quieter but more troubled life, and it's fair to say he wasn't really a good match for Christine, and honestly, maybe he didn't deserve her. As an adult, Jose had multiple run-ins with the law, including charges related to assault and disorderly conduct. That pointed to a short temper and poor self-control, not exactly great qualities for a partner or a father. People who knew him described Jose as someone who could be charismatic, but also explosive when provoked. He worked in utilities, but didn't have a stable career or strong ties to the community. Despite all that, Jose still met Christine, a woman whose life was built on patience, kindness, and stability. It's easy to see how he could have been drawn to her warmth and care, and Christine may have been drawn to the idea of helping someone who needed it. Their relationship eventually led to the birth of Vanessa. But over time, tension started to build between them. Arguments became more frequent, and there were also reports of jealousy and controlling behavior from Jose. Still, Christine was a natural peacemaker and tried to keep things calm in the family. Jose had a history of drug issues, which definitely didn't help him as a partner or a father. Christine put up with far more than most people would have. It was clear she loved him, maybe even too much. But those closest to her could see it in her face. It was like she was waiting for a version of him that might never come. On top of that, Christine was incredibly loyal, sometimes even to her own detriment. Her messages to Jose painted the picture of a woman who kept loving, hoping, and forgiving. But behind that hope, there was exhaustion. And over time, the cracks in their relationship became more and more visible to everyone around them. Her friends and family were genuinely concerned for her safety. And then, on December 1st, 2019, Christine suddenly disappeared and stopped responding to any messages. Meanwhile, police began a familiar process, speaking with the partner. Jose became the first person they questioned and the last person to see Christine alive. And to put it mildly, things did not go well for him. From the moment Jose walked into the interrogation room, his behavior seemed off. He slouched in his chair, crossed his arms, and barely made eye contact with detectives. This wasn't the posture of someone grieving a loss. If anything, he seemed closed off and guarded. At times, he even looked bored, and in other moments, irritated, almost like he felt he was the one being treated unfairly.
Even though the door's kind of closed, I mean, you're free to leave. We brought you here to talk to you. I understand you're...
I'm free to leave. Where am I gonna walk all the way home?
No, we'll give you a ride. I'm just saying you're not held captive here. I'm not like... You're
so
not
why what I came here for?
to talk to you.
About what?
We're trying to find Christina and your kid.
All right, that's exactly what I've been trying to call her too.
Okay.
All right.
All right. So
we're in the same page.
Okay, good. I'd rather have it that way. When's the last time you talked to her?
I talked to her, I think it was Monday morning when she was going to work.
So that was yesterday morning, Monday. Yeah. About what time?
Early in the morning.
Okay. So that was talking on the phone or in person?
On the phone.
On the phone.
Jose claimed that the last time he spoke with Christine was the day before. According to him, she was in a rush and didn't want to talk for long, so the conversation lasted only about a minute. He also said the last time he saw Vanessa was on Thanksgiving, when they had supposedly spent the night at his parents' house.
Did you stay over there this weekend?
No.
You didn't stay over there this weekend?
No.
Do you normally stay over there during the weekend?
Sometimes I do, yeah. Not normally, but sometimes I stay over.
All right. So when's the last time you saw her in person?
Friday.
Throughout the investigation, Jose seemed desperate to convince everyone that he and Christine weren't all that close, and instead of talking about what she meant to him, it felt like he was trying to distance himself from her.
We are boyfriend, girlfriend.
You guys are.
Yeah, but we're not that close either. Because she got her own place, she do her own life, she got her own apartment. When she got this apartment over here, she asked me if I can help her out.
Christine, your only girlfriend? Or you have other girlfriends?
Mm-hmm.
Does she have other boyfriends?
We're not that close.
Right.
It's like, we have a baby.
Yep.
Well, it's not like she my girlfriend. We say that, we use that word very lightly.
Yep.
But we have a baby together. That it happened, so I guess I'm assuming a little bit of responsibility by helping her out a little bit.
So where did you stay over the weekend?
I stayed with my friend Hector.
Hector.
He lives in East Haven.
East Haven. What's Hector's last name?
I don't know.
The last name. You know where he lives in East Haven? Does he know you're Christine? Or he has no idea? So he has no idea who Christine is?
No. He knows I got a girlfriend, that's it.
I mean, do you have any idea where she could be?
No.
Zero. No idea where a 1-year-old would be.
Vanessa?
Yeah.
No.
I mean, Christine is an adult, so I mean, I'm more concerned
Well,
about
Christine is with Vanessa. I figured.
Okay. I'm saying an adult's an adult. They can come and go and do whatever they want. But
Yeah.
a 1-year-old's at the mercy of whoever's with them.
Yeah.
When detectives asked him where he had been over the weekend when Christine died, he only gave vague answers.
At the house at all this weekend? Her house, Christine's.
Not the weekend, no.
You didn't go there to pick anything up, drop anything off?
On.
In fact, he often paused for long stretches before answering, so long that you could fit an entire commentary between the officer's question and his answer, just like this one right now.
Yeah, sure.
When officers asked him to confirm that call with Christine from the day before and showed him the call log, Jose agreed to hand over his phone, but as it turned out, there was no call at all.
There are none.
There are no missed calls?
No, there's nothing.
I don't know, that phone is bugged out. That phone dies out. Is it a smartphone?
Jose, when did you go to Hector's house?
Friday.
When Friday?
Friday night.
When did you come home?
Monday. What time, roughly? To my mom's house?
Yeah.
To where I live at?
Yeah.
During the day, not sure.
End of the day?
During the day, not sure what
During
time.
the day.
Yeah.
Your dad said you went to Christine's Friday with her. Why would he tell me that?
He said that I went to Christine.
Yes.
Friday, that's why he thought I was.
Why would you? You said you told him where you went. And if you told him you went to Hector's,
She
he
got
wouldn't
her
tell
own.
me.
She got her own car.
Right, but why would he tell me that you went to Christine's if you told him where you went?
Why would he tell? He probably assumed.
Vanessa's missing, and that's my 1-year-old daughter.
I'm worried. That's why I keep trying to call my kids.
Jose, the whole ride here, you talked about everything but her. The whole ride here, you didn't talk about a 1-year-old daughter that's missing. I don't get that.
That's my daughter.
Yeah, we want to find her.
Right.
And the only reason you're here
is to find her.
Is to help us find her.
All right, so let's find her.
So where is she?
I don't know.
She's with no idea. I feel like you don't want to give us any information. Your father's given us more information that you're willing. And you would know every single piece of information that your father would know.
She's with Christine. That's all I know.
Christine's a big girl. I'm not worried about Christine. I'm worried about a 1-year-old that has no control over her life. Zero. That's who I want to find.
All right.
Not 40-year-old Christine or however old she is. I'm here to find your daughter.
Okay, let's find.
And like I said, I find it absolutely bizarre that the whole ride here.
So what do you think? That I have my daughter hidden somewhere?
I don't know. I'm asking you for help to find her. I don't know. You have no idea where she could be, nor did you even really talk about it on the whole ride.
So let's talk about her then.
Do you have your daughter?
The conversation was becoming more and more uncomfortable for Jose, but what stood out the most was something else entirely. He showed no emotion at all. No anger, no sadness, no shock, just complete indifference. As the hours went by, that absence of emotion became the loudest thing in the room. Because sometimes it's not about what people say or admit, it's about what they can't fake. And Jose Morales couldn't even pretend to care. For the police, the picture of Christine's murder was becoming painfully clear, and even then, it was still hard to fully believe. And yes, there's a lot of interrogation footage here, but this is one of those rare moments when officers don't hold back, and Jose quite literally started to fall apart right in front of them.
I'm going with the conversation that I'm having at the
half
moment.
the stuff doesn't
So
add
what?
up.
What you want? You want me to? What you want me to cry for my daughter? Cry for Christine? Cry?
No, you can
listen,
cry, you can laugh, you can do whatever the hell you want to do.
She's Christine and her. They not that close. I'm not that close to them.
Yeah, you said you weren't close to Christine. You didn't care about her, but your daughter was extremely important. You said that was...
Well, I guess, yeah, but my life is the kids that you met at my house. That's where I live at.
Well, let's talk about them.
All right, let's talk about them.
You want to be there for them?
Yeah. So I'm going home.
Okay.
Okay. Just...
How long do you think that...
Keep me updated.
What happens if we never find Vanessa?
You will. What you mean? What happened if you never find Vanessa?
Because I don't know where they are. Jose, if I knew where they are, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. We wouldn't even be having a conversation. We wouldn't have bothered.
How come Steven is not here and everybody else is not here?
Because they already were here. We already had this conversation.
All right. This is crazy.
So you understood what I told you, right?
What?
That somebody saw you leaving the house today? Monday? Yes? You understand that?
After that, they asked him to hand over his clothes for testing, and in exchange, they gave him a white suit to wear home. And just like that, Jose was released.
I can put the sneakers on? You really gonna have me go home like this?
Mm-hmm.
You the boss?
Mm-hmm.
And then, the very next day, officers would find Christine's body in the bathtub. From that moment on, the case took a sharp turn. This was no longer a missing person case. It had become a full-scale murder investigation. And suddenly, all attention shifted to Jose. His girlfriend had been officially declared murdered, and his daughter was missing without her mother. That made everything even more urgent because this wasn't just a tragedy that had already happened. A child was still out there, missing. And as the weight of the evidence started to grow rapidly, something else happened, something that pushed the case to an entirely new level. On December 4th, 2019, two volunteers were clearing out donation bins near St. Michael's Church. It was supposed to be a routine task, sorting through bags of old clothes and loading them into a vehicle. But what they found that morning was anything but routine. When they opened one of the bins and started pulling items out, they noticed something strange. Among the donations was what looked like a diaper disposal container. At first, nothing seemed unusual, just a normal item for a family with a baby. But then, they saw it was covered in blood. At first, the volunteers weren't even sure what they were looking at, but as they continued going through the bags, they realized it wasn't just one item. There were multiple bags, all stained with blood. They loaded everything into a van and took it to a storage facility. It wasn't until the next day that they decided to take a closer look, and that's when they made a chilling discovery. Inside one of the bags was a woman's dress, along with a letter addressed to Christine Holley. The name sounded familiar. A quick Google search gave them the answer. The news had already reported that Christine was the woman recently found murdered in her own home, and right after that they immediately called the police. By that point, police already suspected Jose, especially after his failed interrogation. But now there was even more new surveillance footage. Of course, reconstructing the full timeline took time, but after Christine's body was found in the bathtub, officers began collecting video from nearby homes. And within a few days, once all the footage was gathered, the picture started coming together frame by frame, and what those recordings revealed shocked everyone. Forensic experts determined that Christine had been killed sometime between late evening on November 30th and the early hours of December 1st. That meant the footage you're about to hear about was recorded after her death. At exactly 6 in the morning on the day of the murder, Christine's car was captured on Myrtle Avenue, the same street where she, Jose, and Vanessa lived. Just 5 minutes later, it was spotted again, this time heading south on Elm Street. That meant the car was leaving the house, leaving the crime scene. Within minutes, the same vehicle appeared on Derby Avenue, heading towards St. Michael's Church. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because that's exactly where the blood-stained diaper container and her clothing were later found in a donation bin. But the big question was, who was behind the wheel? 6 minutes later, the same car was captured again, now moving in the opposite direction, essentially retracing the same route. And while the footage helped establish a clear timeline, the quality was too poor to identify the driver. That remained the case until the next recording, a real turning point. At 6:18 in the morning, a surveillance camera at a Shell gas station on Main Street captured Christine's car pulling in, and not only that, it parked right in front of the entrance, clearly ignoring a large no parking sign. The man who stepped out of the car was Jose Morales. He went inside and tried to buy a pack of cigarettes, but couldn't find small change and simply walked out. Another camera inside clearly captured his face. There was no mistake. By that point, the sun was already starting to rise. Over the next hour and a half, Jose drove around the city almost aimlessly, before returning at 6:25 through Cottage Street. After that, he stayed at the house, the crime scene, until 8 in the morning, then left again, returned at 8:25, and once more at 1 in the afternoon. The next day, Christine's car left and returned 4 times in the morning, at 4:30, 6, 7:30, and 9:30. You could say the residents of Ansonia make good use of Nest cameras, because their footage tracked his movements almost step by step, and just a few hours after those trips, police showed up at the door. With all this new information, it became clear what needed to happen next. Police urgently wanted to speak with Jose again, and fortunately, he wasn't hard to find. It turned out he had gone back to his parents' house, seemingly trying to wait things out, while police were discovering his girlfriend's body. And when officers came the second time, he didn't seem particularly surprised. Jose said he would never hurt Christine, and especially not Vanessa, and despite his flat reaction, he even claimed he didn't know Christine was dead. At first, he said he hadn't been at her house at all over the weekend, but detectives knew that wasn't true, and the moment Jose realized that, he started changing his story. And as for his parents' reaction, honestly, that speaks for itself.
We know where Christine is.
You know what Christine is?
Yes.
Oh, you guys found her?
Yes.
What about the baby?
Christine's dead.
No, ¿cómo va a ser? What happened to her? What happened to her? ¿Cómo va a ser?
This is the moment officers informed the Morales family about Christine's death. You can see just how deeply it affected his parents, but Jose himself, standing in the background, shows almost no emotion at all.
We are looking for all the help we can get.
Both the officers and Jose's parents looked shocked, not just by the news itself, but by his reaction. Investigators had already seen footage of him leaving Christine's house multiple times, and yet in that room, Jose acted like he either couldn't or wouldn't accept the truth.
Where you found her? Where you found her?
She's at her apartment.
Yeah, apartment? Oh my God. Oh my God.
No, we can't find the car that he says she's always driving. But we know where the car is that you say that she's driving.
They know what?
Yeah. What's up?
When I asked you about her buying a new car, you said you knew nothing about
No, I
it.
know about it.
Well, why did you say you didn't know anything
I
about it?
know about it. What I want. She bought a car. She bought a car.
Jose, where you was today?
Jose, we also just took your car.
The car is gone?
Yep.
I don't know. What you want me to come up with an idea, make something up?
What happened to
What you want me
Christine?
to think?
What happened
What
to
you want me to
Christine?
say? To just invent a situation?
Backed into a corner by the facts, he suddenly started changing his version of events, but even then, something still felt off. There was none of the weight you'd expect from someone who was truly shocked or devastated. Instead, he came across as defensive.
Obviously, something did happen.
Were they in a serious relationship?
Huh?
Were they in a serious relationship? Well, he said it was.
Oh, we wasn't in a serious relationship.
They were dating. So he's gonna say you were.
I was at his house. I was at
on
with
Monday.
him. I was with him.
On Monday.
The weekend.
No, Monday. But you just said you were with Hector on Monday. You said I don't remember when I was doing on Monday.
I was with
Oh, now
Hector
I'm
the
with Hector.
weekend. The weekend.
What about Monday? They asking about Monday.
And things only got worse for him, because detectives immediately started tearing apart his new version of events.
Well, I'm here, and you are putting up a lot of walls.
It's not that I got a lot of walls.
Yeah, but
Maybe my brain is messed up. Maybe I'm not a clear-minded person.
Okay, I can understand that. You have a lot of stress in your life?
Yeah, I had no job.
At that point, no one was really surprised when Jose was officially arrested for Christine's murder. It didn't feel like a sudden twist, it felt like the inevitable outcome everything had been building toward. The atmosphere around the case had already shifted, the tension had been growing, and his arrest seemed like it was only a matter of time. The evidence was stacking up day by day, layer by layer, each new detail reinforcing the last, and his story simply couldn't hold up. It fell apart under even the slightest scrutiny, leaving behind more questions than answers. Investigators had everything: surveillance footage, phone records, and his own conflicting statements. All of it came together into a clear, consistent picture that could no longer be ignored or explained away as coincidence. But what stood out even more was his behavior, his reactions: cold, inconsistent, completely out of place for the situation, and that ultimately changed how everything was seen. His arrest was a shock for both families. For Christine's parents, it was a kind of pain that's hard to put into words. The man their daughter had led into her life, the one she trusted, was now standing accused of killing her. It didn't just break their reality, it shattered their memories of the past. And for Jose's parents, it was a different, darker kind of pain. They looked at their son, the person they had known his entire life, the one they raised and cared for, and slowly began to realize that he was no longer who they thought he was. It was a slow, painful collision with a reality that's incredibly hard to accept. Unfortunately, the trial didn't begin until 5 long years later. Those years dragged on, leaving both families suspended somewhere between hope and despair. That's why a case that started back in 2019 is only now unfolding, after the pain has already had time to settle in. And when that moment finally came, when everyone was waiting for answers, Jose presented a completely new version of events, one that sharply contradicted everything he had said before. He admitted that he was in the house when Christine was killed, but insisted that things were not what they seemed. He tried to shift the context, to change the role he played in the story. According to him, that night he stepped outside to smoke PCP, and he claimed it left him confused, disoriented, almost detached from reality. He described his state as foggy, like he didn't fully understand what was happening around him. He said that when he went back inside, he walked into the bathroom and sat down on the toilet, and that's when, through that distorted state, he saw 2 masked men approaching the house. The image was vague, but clear enough to become part of his story. But according to him, because of his condition, he couldn't do anything. He described himself as someone trapped, a witness who had no power to intervene. Jose claimed he grabbed Christine's phone and dialed 911, but didn't have time to say anything. In his version, one of the attackers hit him in the face and chest, causing him to fall and leaving him unable to move. Lying on the floor, he said he could hear Christine screaming, sharp, desperate screams. One of the men allegedly attacked her, while the other took little Vanessa. He claimed he saw his girlfriend being beaten with a crowbar, describing it as the most terrifying moment, yet still placing himself only as an observer in his own story. After that, he said the attackers fled, leaving him next to Christine's body. Everything, according to him, happened quickly, chaotically, with no chance to change anything, at least that's how he told it. And as for little Vanessa, he claimed she had been kidnapped, making that the central piece of his new story. That was his new version. It sounded like an attempt to explain the obvious, but at the same time, it raised even more doubts. The problem was, it completely contradicted everything he had said earlier. The inconsistencies weren't minor, they were fundamental. At first, he had claimed he hadn't even seen Christine that day, in fact, that he hadn't been in the house at all. His initial statements completely ruled out his presence at the scene, and he certainly hadn't mentioned 2 attackers or calling 911. Those details only appeared much later, when the case had already taken on a much more serious scale. So when he suddenly started placing himself at the crime scene during what he now described as a violent break-in, trying to present himself as a helpless witness instead of a suspect to the prosecution, it didn't just seem suspicious, it looked like a direct attempt to rewrite the story and another clear sign of his guilt.
Did you kill Christine Holloway?
No.
Mr. Morales, were you so intoxicated on a substance, PCP or alcohol or any other substance that you do not remember killing Christine Holloway?
I did not kill Christine Holloway.
I just want to be sure, right? We heard the 911 tape. Is there any possibility that this is a delusion that you are engaged in?
No.
Okay. And you're 100% sure of that?
I'm 100% sure that people came into the apartment.
People came into your house and they killed.
Well, one of them.
It's worth noting that the jury needed more breaks than usual, and it was noticeable. The proceedings kept getting interrupted, the pace of the trial constantly thrown off, largely because of Jose's chaotic and unpredictable behavior. He stumbled over his own words, lost his train of thought, jumped from one version to another. His contradictory statements, constant slip-ups, sudden changes in details, and fragmented, incomplete memories created a clear impression. Either he was completely unprepared for questioning, or he was deliberately trying to hide the truth, and with every answer, that impression only grew stronger. And in a courtroom, both of those possibilities look equally bad. There's no room for chaos without consequences. Every inconsistency, every shift in wording becomes another signal to the jury, and they saw it. Another blow came from the testimony of his landlord, a man who worked in his shop right in the garage beneath the apartment. He knew the sounds of that building well. He was used to the usual quiet upstairs. But on the day of the murder, everything was different. He testified that he heard loud, heavy thuds coming from the apartment above him. The sounds were sharp, unnatural, completely out of the ordinary. That was unusual, because normally, he said, he barely heard anything from that apartment, no noise, no sudden sounds, and that's exactly why those impacts stayed so clearly in his memory. And then there was the forensic evidence, the part of the process that can't be talked around or twisted with words, because that's where only facts speak. Christine's DNA was found on Jose's shoes, in his car, and on several trash bags in his trunk. These weren't isolated traces. It was a pattern of evidence forming one consistent picture. More than that, her hair was found in his hands, direct physical contact that's hard to explain away as coincidence, and phone data confirmed his presence at the crime scene at the exact time the murder occurred. Time, location, circumstances, everything lined up. Even without video footage showing the actual moment, the physical evidence told its own clear and consistent story, and that story left very little room for doubt. It became even more disturbing after a forensic anthropologist reconstructed fragments of Christine's skull. What the jury saw was evidence of brutal violence. The bones showed clear signs of multiple blows from a blunt object, most likely a crowbar. This was no longer speculation, these were marks that would remain forever. The jury needed just 2.5 hours to reach a verdict, which is a very short time for a case like this. That meant the decision was clear and without hesitation. When they returned to the courtroom, a heavy silence filled the room, the kind where everyone understands that something final is about to be said. Because despite the strange and confusing story Jose had told, despite the years that had passed and all the legal arguments, the evidence was undeniable. It all pointed in one direction. And so, it was no surprise when Jose Morales was found guilty of the murder of Christine Holey. It felt like the logical conclusion to everything that had been presented in court. He was also found guilty of tampering with evidence, another confirmation that there had been attempts to hide the truth after the crime, and that only strengthened the overall picture of what had happened.
In docket number AAN CR 20-018-6660T, and the first count of the amended information charging the defendant Jose Morales with the crime of murder in violation of Section 53A-54A of the Connecticut General Statutes, how do you find the defendant as to the crime of murder?
Guilty.
In docket number AAN CR 20-018-6660T, in the second count of the amended information charging the defendant Jose Morales with the crime of tampering with physical evidence in violation of Section 53A-155 of the Connecticut General Statutes, how do you find the defendant as to the crime of tampering with physical evidence? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
But even after the verdict, and after all these years, one question still remains. The same question that continues to haunt both the family and investigators. Where is Vanessa? It lingers in the air, coming back again and again, like a loop with no way out. Christine's death on its own is already a devastating and painful tragedy, one that left nothing but emptiness behind. But the disappearance of her 1-year-old daughter makes this story even more chilling, even more unsettling. This is no longer just a murder case. It's a story defined by a void that can't be filled and a silence with no answers. Despite nationwide attention, despite the Amber Alert that spread across the country, despite countless searches, checks, interrogations, and endless hours of work, Vanessa has never been found. Not a single trace, not a single clue. It's as if she simply vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions no one can answer. And sadly, with each passing year, it feels more and more likely that Jose didn't just take her mother's life, but may have also taken his own daughter and still never faced responsibility for it. That thought settles in slowly but relentlessly, becoming yet another dark shadow over this case. Christine Holey was a devoted mother, a loving daughter, and a woman who kept trying to see the best in someone who didn't deserve it. She believed, she forgave, she tried to hold on to something that had already been falling apart, and that trust may have ultimately cost her everything. Her life was cut short far too soon, suddenly and brutally, without giving her any chance. And her little daughter disappeared into the unknown, into a darkness that still hasn't lifted. And that uncertainty is the most terrifying part of everything that remains. And even though Jose Morales is now behind bars serving his sentence, this story is not over. It doesn't have an ending that anyone can truly accept or understand. Not for Christine's family, who live with this pain every single day, not for investigators who continue searching and checking even the smallest leads, and certainly not for Vanessa, whose fate remains unknown. Until she is found, until there is at least some kind of answer, until there is a final conclusion, this case will remain a reminder that justice does not always mean closure. Sometimes, even a verdict isn't enough to end the story. All anyone can do is hope that one day she will be found alive and safe, and that this story, which still holds everyone in suspense, will finally get the answers it has been missing for so long.